under, scoop, and out, under, scoop, and out. Today we are starting right at the beginning with learning how to work the chain stitch. And don't worry if it feels awkward at first. I'll walk you through it slowly, step by step, and I'll also show you a really simple way to practice this, even without your hook. The chain stitch is usually the very first thing we make in most crochet projects. It creates a row of loops that acts as the foundation of everything else. Whether you're making a blanket, a side-to-side hat, or even a small project like a coaster, you're going to need the foundation chain. Think of it as the starting line of your crochet work. For this tutorial, you'll need some yarn and a hook and a lot of patience with yourself. So if your stitches feel tight or difficult, just be patient with yourself. And you make sure that the hook you're using is the right size for the yarn you've chosen. I'm using medium weight yarn, so I've picked a 5mm crochet hook. So before we start the chain, let's talk about how you're going to hold your yarn. There's no one perfect way to do it. What matters most is what feels comfortable and what gives you most control over your yarn. What I like to do is to wrap my yarn around my index finger and slowly keep releasing each loop as I go along. So the hook will go on your dominant hand and the yarn will go on your other hand. So as I've said, I wrap my yarn around my index finger like so and slowly release it every time I need more yarn. Then continue doing this, pulling in more and more as I go. You're going to try and keep the yarn taut, but not too tight. It might feel strange at first, it usually does, but your hands will get used to it with practice. And practice is the name of the game. You gotta keep practicing. Now let's start with a slip knot. You're going to want to leave about a 6-inch tail. The reason you leave such a long tail is because later when you start working on your projects, you'll need to weave this in back into your work to secure it. And the process is much easier when you have enough length to work with. You don't need to go running around grabbing your tape measure. An easy way to estimate it is to use your hand. From your wrist to the tip of your middle finger is around 6 to 7 inches. So you can use that as a quick guide until you get used to eyeballing it. So the first thing you're going to do is work a slip knot, as I said. You make your loop and you pull it through and you have a slip knot. And just make sure you can adjust it using the working end of your yarn. Now you're going to take your hook and insert it through that loop. After you've inserted your hook into the loop as so, as I've said, this is how I like to maintain the tension of my yarn, by wrapping it around my index finger. So after you've wrapped it around and left a bit of length to work with, you're going to hold your yarn, wrap it around, and bring it through the loop to make your chain. You take your hook, go under the yarn, and then bring it up. As you're bringing it up, you make sure that the yarn has snagged on the hook so that you're not pulling up a blank hook like this. So again, wrap it around and bring it through the loop. Wrap it around and bring it through the loop to make your chain stitches. You want to make sure that the stitches sit on the wider part of your hook. You can see here is a bit narrower and the wider part starts from somewhere here going forth. You want to make sure that your stitches are sitting on this wide part right here. This helps to prevent tight chains. Scoop and pull. Under, scoop and out. Under, scoop and out. Under, scoop and out. As your chain starts forming, you'll see that the little braid structure starts to appear. Look at that. If I'm moving a little too fast, feel free to slow down the video or to use the timestamps below to jump to a specific section. Everyone learns at a different pace, so take your time with this. Again, you yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull through. I want to share something with you that might really help, especially if you're teaching a child or even if you just want another way to practice. When I was teaching my niece to crochet, I actually started her with the chain stitch using just her fingers. Just her fingers. She was around 4 years old at the time, so using a hook didn't really make sense yet, for safety and for coordination too. And I've always heard from other crocheters that starting with your fingers can really help train your hands before introducing the hook. So you can absolutely try this yourself or with someone you're teaching. So here's how it works. Let's just put the hook aside and undo our chains. Again, you're going to start with your 6-inch tail and make a slip knot, right? And just make sure you can adjust it using the working end of your yarn. And you're going to want to make sure that the loop is big enough for you to insert your fingers, because you're going to use your thumb and your index finger as your hooks. So you're going to insert the fingers into the loop, pinch the yarn and pull it through. And as you can see, the chain that we formed is a bit loose and wonky, so you're going to use this side of the yarn to adjust it. Go slowly like that until it's the size that you want. Insert your fingers, pull through the yarn out of the loop. Again, insert. Again, adjust the size of the chain. Fingers into the loop and pull up the yarn and adjust the size of the chain. Fingers through, pull up and adjust the size of your chain. This side over here, this side is used to adjust the size of the chain, and this side is used to adjust the size of the loop that you're working on. So the tighter side adjusts the chain and the loose side adjusts the loop. So fingers through, pinch and pull. Fingers through, pinch and pull. Fingers through, pinch and pull and adjust. Finger. And you can see, the thing about this method though is you're going to have to be really careful that you don't get such big and loose chains, especially if you want to use your hook later to make a project. You have to make sure they're a bit tighter. But if you're just doing this for practice, the thing you need to make sure is that your chains are evenly spaced and it's not too loose, and that you're also not twisting up the chain as you go. So you can go along, you can hold the slip knot with the other hand and pull the chains, whatever feels comfortable for you. Do that. Again, if your loop gets too big, just pull on the working yarn to adjust it, and try to keep your loops even and untwisted so your chain looks consistent. And the best part, if something goes wrong, you can just pull the yarn and undo it easily. It's a simple and good way to get used to the motion of chaining. So getting back to the hook, just going to go at it, and as your chain gets longer, you're going to pause every few stitches to adjust your grip, whether you're working with your fingers or with your hook. Just going to pause a little, pinch that over there and get a look at it to see if you're doing everything right. This gives you more control and helps you keep your stitches even. So there you go, these are your chain stitches right there. And if you're just getting started, I've put together a beginner crochet playlist that walks you through each step, from how to make a slip knot to your first stitches and how to build up to real projects. So right there. And a thing to remember, especially as you're building up, is these are the chain stitches right here. You start counting from this one, moving on to the next. But the loop on your hook stays a loop. It's never counted as a chain stitch. It's simply the loop on your hook. So as you go along, you'll see a pattern tell you something like work on the third chain from your hook. So you need to remember that this loop doesn't count as a chain. This is the first chain from your hook, the second chain from your hook, the third chain from your hook, and so on. You start counting from the complete chain right below that loop over there. But if you're counting your stitches, you count them from the bottom. If they tell you to chain something like 50, you need to count from where you started the slip knot right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We currently have 7 chains. Right? Right. If your chain doesn't look quite right, here are a few things to check. If it's too tight, you may be pulling too hard or not letting the stitch sit on the wider part of your hook, as I talked about earlier. If they're too loose, you need to adjust your yarn tension slightly. And if your hook is catching yarn awkwardly, make sure that you twist your hook downward like that or to the side as you're pulling through. You need to twist it. See? You yarn over and pull through like that. And if you have uneven stitches, you need to pause and adjust your grip more often. Maybe every couple of stitches you pause and adjust your grip. And remember, this is all part of learning. These mistakes you're making is a process that will help you learn how to make the chain stitches. You can't do everything at once. You can't actually start a process and have it all pinned by the end of this video. You need to keep practicing. Keep your movements consistent. You also need to adjust your fingers as your chain grows. You see, you need to leave the chain to hang about and continue moving where you're holding the chain from. You don't hold it from here because this will not give you enough tension or space to work with. You need to hold it here so that you can maintain the same sizing and tension as you go. So you need to adjust your grip as you go. This will keep your movements consistent and it will also help the hook do the work that it needs to do. And also give yourself some grace. Give yourself time. Time to build on the muscle memory. And as you get the hang of it, you'll naturally start to get a bit faster. So you just go slowly at the start, then you'll get faster as you go. And if you want something simple to practice with, I also have a quick and cozy mix playlist filled with easy, beginner-friendly projects you can actually finish and enjoy. And if it feels awkward, you are doing it right. Every crocheter starts there. It's usually very awkward at the beginning. Your hands are learning something completely new and it takes time. Even a few minutes of practice each day will make a huge difference. You don't need to go for hours each day to make sure you nail it down. Just a few minutes of practice each day will do the trick. You also don't want to exhaust your hands or your wrists or even your brain. You don't want to get tired before you start. You want to enjoy the process, frustrating as it may seem at first. You actually want to stick with it. And I want to show you something really special. This is the first chain my niece actually ever made. My little neon necklace. It's not very neat. It's not very consistent with the tension. But guys, look at it. It's a reminder that every crocheter starts somewhere. Right now, she's gotten much better at chaining. Her chains are consistent. You should see the chain necklace her mom got. So go ahead and make your own. Make your own chains, make your own chain necklaces, chain bracelets, chain everything.